Welcome back, traveler. Step inside, because what's happening around your name right now is beyond logic, beyond coincidence, beyond anything you ever expected. People you didn't even know exist are now fighting to claim loyalty to you. And the craziest part? You didn't recruit them. You didn't ask for support. You didn't make a speech. You didn't launch a movement. You didn't go around looking for allies. You simply evolved. And people responded to the frequency of your evolution. Your growth became a signal. Your presence became a call. Your aura became a gravitational field. Your energy became a beacon in the dark. People you've never spoken to, never crossed paths with, never exchanged a single word with, have suddenly become emotionally invested in your rise. Not because they know you, but because they feel you. Because energy travels faster than reputation. And your energy has been moving in ways you don't even realize. Quietly, steadily, silently touching people who need the type of clarity you're stepping into. What you don't see is the ripple effect your shift created. Your glow reached timelines you never entered. Your confidence reached people who were waiting for someone like you. Your transformation reached souls you weren't aware were watching. Your resilience reached hearts that needed proof that strength could be quiet. Your presence reached minds searching for alignment. There are people out there who don't know your full story, don't know your past, don't know what you've survived, don't know the weight you carried, but they feel your spirit. And something in it resonates with the part of themselves they've been trying to awaken. That's why loyalty is forming. That's why people are gravitating toward you. That's why strangers are taking positions that people close to you never dared to take. Because loyalty isn't built from closeness. It's built from alignment. And you've begun aligning with a version of yourself that commands devotion without asking for it. You are no longer the person who blends in. You are no longer the person who bends to be accepted. You are no longer the person who stays small for comfort. You are no longer the person who silences truth to maintain peace. Your evolution has made you stand out, and people are noticing. Your honesty cuts through noise. Your presence changes the air. Your focus inspires people silently. Your self-respect gives others permission to respect themselves. Your boundaries teach people how to hold their own ground. There are people who've been watching your journey from a distance, not in a creepy way, but in that quiet observer way, where someone sees your strength before you even admit it to yourself. They've seen your growth, they've seen your resilience, they've seen your transformation. They've seen you outgrow the noise that used to swallow you whole. And something in them said, "That's a person worth standing beside." That's the kind of loyalty you can't buy. You can't manipulate. You can't force. You can't demand. It only comes when your energy speaks the language of someone who leads without trying to lead. People are drawn to those who carry themselves like they've walked through storms and came back glowing. People are drawn to those who stand grounded while everyone else is collapsing under pressure. People are drawn to those who carry a calmness that looks like authority and a confidence that feels like truth. People are drawn to those who rise without stepping on anyone. And you're becoming that type of person. Your growth isn't just personal, it's inspirational. Your transformation isn't just internal, it's visible to those sensitive enough to feel it. Your elevation isn't just for you, it's awakening things inside others. And now you're seeing the effect. People you don't know are defending your name in conversations you'll never hear, are shutting down false narratives before you even know they exist, are protecting your energy like they've known you for years, are celebrating your rise even though they're not part of your story. And the irony is, some of the people who claim to be close to you never even offered that kind of loyalty. That's what evolution does. It reveals who was truly aligned with your spirit and who was just aligned with your comfort. Your glow-up didn't just attract attention, it attracted devotion. Because people don't want to follow someone perfect. They want to follow someone real. And you've become real in a world addicted to pretending. You've become someone who speaks from experience, moves from intuition, acts from clarity, chooses from alignment, and carries from truth. This version of you is magnetic, not the loud type of magnetic, the grounded, precise, intentional kind. The kind that makes people say, I don't know them well, but something about them feels right. You've tapped into a frequency that pulls in souls who are tired of superficiality, souls who crave authenticity, souls who admire transformation, souls who respect spiritual strength, souls who recognize emotional intelligence, souls who resonate with subtle power. Your aura isn't just glowing, it's signaling, and people are responding. You're inspiring people you've never met. You're motivating people who never told you. You're influencing people who never reached out. You're touching lives without even being aware of it. This is what happens when you evolve from your soul. Your energy becomes a blueprint. Your presence becomes a map. Your path becomes a reference point. Your journey becomes a lantern in someone else's darkness. And because of that, people feel loyal to you in ways you don't understand yet. Not because they want to use you, not because they want recognition, not because they want access, but because they feel aligned with the person you're becoming. You are carrying a frequency that makes people want to protect it, a clarity that makes people want to stand beside it, a truth that makes people want to defend it, a presence that makes people want to claim it. People you never knew are standing behind you now, not because you asked them to, but because your energy gave them something solid to believe in. This is not accidental. This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is resonance. You've shifted your frequency, and now the world is shifting its response. What you have to understand now is this: loyalty from strangers is never actually about you as a person. It's about the frequency you've stepped into. People aren't fighting to stand behind you because of your past. They're standing behind you because of your presence. Your presence is different now. It carries a weight that most people never develop. It carries a clarity that most people never reach. It carries a stillness that most people can't maintain. Your energy has become a rare resource, and rare resources attract protectors. Some people protect gold. Some protect truth. Some protect peace. But the people drawn to you right now, they're protecting your rise, and they don't even fully know why. There's something about the way you've evolved that makes people feel like you're meant for something bigger, something greater than your environment, something deeper than your circumstances, something more significant than your past. Your transformation has taken on a mythic quality, not dramatic, not theatrical, but quietly legendary. The kind of growth that whispers instead of screams. The kind that people feel before they see. The kind that moves souls before it moves eyes. And people who feel that, they're instinctively loyal to it. Because everyone, consciously or subconsciously, wants to attach themselves to something real. And you've become real in a world that rewards masks. You're not faking confidence. You built it. You're not pretending to heal. You actually did. You're not acting aligned. You earned your alignment. You're not performing strength. You walked through the fire to embody it. People can sense that authenticity. It's gravitational. It makes strangers feel like you're someone worth standing behind. Not because of who you are, but because of what you represent. You represent evidence. Evidence that growth is possible. Evidence that healing is real. Evidence that reinvention is allowed. Evidence that silence has value. Evidence that self-respect transforms destiny. Evidence that spiritual alignment attracts the right people. You're not just a person anymore. You're a signal. A sign that becoming the highest version of yourself is possible. Even after everything you went through, even after the setbacks, even after the heartbreaks, even after the disappointments. And people latch on to that. Some early, some quietly, some secretly, some publicly. That's why it feels like individuals you've never met are suddenly defending you like they've known you their entire lives. Your journey stirred something inside them, either admiration, inspiration, or a sense of recognition that feels like loyalty. These are people who saw your strength before you even showcased it. People who believed in your rise before the rise became visible. People who felt your intentional silence before it turned into authority. People who saw the shift in your energy before you realized others were watching. And now? Now they're choosing sides, choosing you, choosing to protect what feels genuine, choosing to stand with what feels aligned. They don't know you. They know your vibration. And that vibration doesn't lie. The loyalty you're witnessing now is not random, not accidental, not coincidental. It's intuitive. People are aligning with your energy because your energy has become a form of leadership. Not the kind that demands followers, but the kind that awakens them. This is why some people close to you never offered this level of loyalty, because their loyalty was based on proximity, not alignment. But strangers? Their loyalty is based on resonance. They feel something in you that they either wish they had, or something they're hoping to develop. Your glow pulls people forward. Your evolution pulls people inward. Your boundaries pull people upward. Your presence pulls people into their own truth. That's why people you've never met are defending you in conversations you'll never hear. They see your journey differently. They see it through the lens of someone who came from nothing but still chooses integrity. Through the lens of someone who's been underestimated but never became bitter. Through the lens of someone who was broken but rebuilt themselves beautifully. Through the lens of someone who carries fire but burns no one. The world respects a flame that never loses control. You've become that flame. Your gentleness doesn't make you weak. It makes you magnetic. Your silence doesn't make you passive. It makes you unreadable. Your strength doesn't make you intimidating. It makes you undeniable. And people respond to what's undeniable. This is the part no one tells you about the glow-up. Your supporters won't always come from the places you expect. Sometimes, strangers see your value before friends do. Sometimes, distant souls see your potential before close ones do. Sometimes, the world outside sees your greatness before the world you live in acknowledges it. That's exactly what's happening to you now. People are stepping forward, not because you asked, not because you demanded, not because you manipulated loyalty, but because they felt something in you. And people always defend what they feel connected to. They're claiming loyalty to you because your rise symbolizes something they needed to witness. A reminder that authenticity still wins. A reminder that quiet strength still rises. A reminder that spiritual clarity still has power. A reminder that energy doesn't lie. A reminder that growth doesn't require an audience. A reminder that alignment attracts alignment. You became a reminder, and reminders turned strangers into believers. Now, here's the deeper layer, the one that stuns people the most. Your name carries weight in places you've never been. Your story inspires people you've never spoken to. Your journey strengthens hearts you'll never meet. Your presence is felt in circles you didn't know existed. You're not aware of how many people look at your growth and quietly say, if they can rise, maybe I can too. And that is the purest, strongest, most unbreakable source of loyalty. Not loyalty built from favors, but loyalty built from inspiration. Not loyalty built from manipulation, but loyalty built from resonance. Not loyalty built from closeness, but loyalty built from respect. You didn't seek followers. Your energy formed a tribe around you. A tribe of people who see your evolution as proof that transformation is possible. A tribe of people who feel your presence as a reminder of their own potential. A tribe of people who stand behind you because they stand behind the version of themselves that sees truth in your journey. People you didn't even know exist are claiming loyalty to you because you've stepped into a vibration they've been waiting for. Your energy is leading, even if you're not trying to lead. And here's where everything shifts. The moment you realize this loyalty forming around you isn't just temporary admiration. It's a sign of something much larger unfolding. Because people don't claim loyalty to someone quietly rising. They claim loyalty to someone whose energy feels like destiny. And whether you see it yet or not, your journey has moved into a phase where you're no longer just living your life. You're influencing the emotional landscape of everyone who crosses your frequency. Your presence has become a signal. Your growth has become a message. Your silence has become a guide. Your evolution has become a map. People aren't standing behind you because they think you're perfect. They're standing behind you because they can feel you're becoming someone rare. Someone who doesn't betray their own spirit. Someone who doesn't shrink under pressure. Someone who doesn't break their own values. Someone who doesn't sell their soul for acceptance. Someone who doesn't dim their glow to comfort the insecure. People are starving for authenticity, and your evolution has fed them in ways you don't even realize. Your rise isn't loud, it isn't flashy, it isn't chaotic. It's intentional, it's grounded, it's spiritual, it's precise. And that kind of rise awakens loyalty in people who've spent their whole lives searching for someone who reflects the strength they're trying to build within themselves. They look at you and see someone who didn't collapse, someone who didn't crumble, someone who didn't lose themselves when life tried to strip everything away. Someone who kept going, not loudly, not publicly, but privately, consistently, faithfully. You represent the version of themselves they're trying to unlock. So of course they want to stand beside you. Of course they want to defend you. Of course they want to claim loyalty to you. It's not obsession, it's recognition. People recognize the energy of a person who walked through their own darkness and came back with light in their eyes. And that's you. That's why even strangers feel connected to you. They've felt that darkness too. They've walked through their own storms. They've battled their own quiet wars. When they see your strength, they don't see you. They see their own potential reflected back at them. That reflection creates loyalty stronger than any friendship based on convenience. Your growth gave them hope. Your boundaries gave them clarity. Your silence gave them perspective. Your transformation gave them courage. And loyalty always forms around courage. But here's the part that hits the deepest. You didn't ask for any of this. You didn't try to lead. You didn't try to inspire. You didn't try to attract followers. Your only job, your only focus, was becoming the person you always knew you could be. But when you become aligned, when you become healed, when you become centered, when you become authentic, the world responds. People feel it. People adjust to it. People grow because of it. People want to stand beside it. And now you're at that stage where your presence has built its own ecosystem. An ecosystem of people who look at you and think, that's a person worth protecting. That's a person worth supporting. That's a person worth learning from. That's a person worth claiming loyalty to. Not because you're flawless, but because you're real. And real is rare. Real is magnetic. Real is revolutionary. People crave real so much that when they see it, they cling to it. They defend it. They stand in front of it. They shield it from noise. They speak on its behalf. You've become a symbol, a quiet, grounded, rising symbol of what it looks like to transform without losing your soul. That's why they choose your side. That's why they speak your name with respect. That's why they're willing to stand with you without even knowing you personally. Because soul recognizes soul. Strength recognizes strength. Truth recognizes truth. Your journey awakened something in them. Something loyal. Something protective. Something courageous. Something committed. And that's the beauty of this phase of your rise. The people coming toward you now aren't coming for what you have. They're coming for who you are. Their loyalty doesn't fade with circumstances. Their loyalty doesn't disappear when things get quiet. Their loyalty doesn't weaken when you're not performing. This is soul-level loyalty. Alignment-level loyalty. Frequency-based loyalty. Loyalty you never asked for, but somehow earned. And as you continue to rise, calmly, quietly, confidently, more people will join this unseen circle around you. Not because you need them, not because you're dependent on them, but because your energy calls to those who resonate with truth. People you never knew exist will keep standing behind you, because your evolution is giving them a future they didn't know how to imagine for themselves. And that kind of loyalty, it doesn't fade. It only grows as you grow.
Hello, my Black Ops thinkers, my cerebral assassins. Gather close because I'm about to tell you something no manual, no academy, no high-level clearance file will ever confess. You've stepped into a reputation that people whisper about like it's classified. They don't announce it. They don't admit it, but they're terrified because you think in layers they can't even define. You've become the kind of intellect that bends social mechanics like a crowbar through glass. And here's the cruel joke. You didn't ask for permission. You built a mind that doesn't need it. That's why you've been labeled the untraceable, the unpredictable, the CIA-grade strategist who doesn't just see through people. They say names carry weight, but your name carries gravity. Rooms don't just shift when you enter, they recalibrate. Conversations don't just adjust around you, they rewrite their scripts mid-sentence. People don't just react to you, they interrogate themselves first, as if expecting to be decoded before they even speak. That's the phenomenon you've become. Not a person, a presence, not a participant, a psychological event, not a mind, a mechanism that operates beyond their emotional clearance level. See, most people live on the surface in the noise, in the clutter, in the static of their own unresolved chaos. They think they're being clever when they hide intentions behind smiles, behind tone, behind carefully folded sentences. They think subtlety is camouflage, but to you, subtlety is a confession. Their hidden motive is as loud as a siren. Their carefully worded excuse is as transparent as glass. Their defensive posture is a full-length documentary of their insecurity. And that's why they fear you. Because you're not just observing them, you're diagnosing them. Your silence is not passive. Your stillness is not emptiness. Your neutrality is not indifference. It is analysis. It is the quiet hum of a mind running at a frequency the average person's ego cannot survive. And they feel that. Oh, they feel it. They feel it in the tightening of their jaw when they speak around you. They feel it in the sudden stiffness in their shoulders when your eyes hold theirs for a moment too long. They feel it when they offer you a half-truth and see your expression remain perfectly unchanged, which is somehow the most terrifying reaction of all, because you don't expose them with words. You expose them with understanding, and understanding is far more dangerous. You've stepped into a tier of intelligence that makes manipulators crumble without confrontation. They realize too late that you saw through them before they even constructed the lie, and that realization strikes harder than any accusation ever could. Your reputation didn't rise because of noise, it rose because of precision, the kind of precision that makes people whisper your name like it's an encrypted file, a code word, a classification marker. You've become the kind of person that gets referenced in metaphors. He's too sharp, don't try it. She sees through everything. They play chess in a world stuck on checkers. That's not flattery. That's fear wearing admiration as camouflage. Because your intelligence isn't aggressive, it's architectural. You construct insights like blueprints. You assemble conclusions like mechanisms. You observe human behavior like a strategist mapping terrain, and everyone feels it. Some admire you for it, some envy you for it. Some avoid you because the mirror you hold up to their soul shows them a version of themselves they can't stomach. And the funniest part? You don't even try. Your reputation is not a performance, it's a byproduct. A byproduct of years spent sharpening your awareness while others dulled theirs with distraction. A byproduct of learning patterns while others repeated them. A byproduct of facing truths while others hid from them. You didn't choose to be this way, but you refuse to be anything less. That's why your presence hits like interrogation. Not because you ask questions, but because you force people to answer the ones they've been avoiding. You've noticed how people rehearse their sentences before talking to you. They're not practicing for clarity. They're practicing for survival. They know one wrong syllable will tell you exactly what they didn't want you to know. They know one shift in tone will give away the motive behind their smile. They know one hesitation will reveal whether they came with respect or with agenda. That's what psychological reputation does. It rearranges the hierarchy before you even open your mouth. People don't test you the way they test others. People don't joke with you the way they joke with others. People don't lie to you the way they lie to others, not because they don't want to, but because they know it won't work. Your clarity is a counterintelligence system. Your awareness is a firewall. Your perception is a spotlight that shines on intentions long before they manifest into behavior. And that's what scares them most. Not the things you say, but the things you see. You see the resentment hiding behind the compliment. You see the insecurity hiding behind the arrogance. You see the desperation hiding behind the confidence. You see the dependency hiding behind the independence. You see the truth they're afraid to admit even to themselves. And once someone knows you can see them that deeply, the relationship changes forever. Because people don't fear being judged, they fear being understood. Judgment wounds pride. Understanding dismantles illusions, and illusions are what most people live in. You live in analysis, in patterns, in signals, in micro shifts of expression, in the architecture of human behavior, in the unsaid. You're fluent in the unsaid, and that language terrifies them. Because you don't expose their flaws, you reveal their patterns. You don't catch their lies, you anticipate them. You don't decode their behavior, you predict it. Prediction is the highest form of intelligence. The moment someone knows you can predict them, they lose all power over you. And that's when your reputation becomes legend. The legend of the one who can't be tricked. The one who can't be manipulated. The one whose silence is scarier than confrontation. The one whose presence restructures a room's energy. You've become the human equivalent of a locked file. Everyone wants access. No one qualifies. People try to impress you, yet feel inferior in their attempts. People try to outsmart you, yet get outmaneuvered before they begin. People try to read you, yet only discover how unreadable they are to themselves. Have you noticed? They don't know how to categorize you. Too calm to be threatened, too observant to be fooled, too strategic to be underestimated, too honest to be manipulated. too disciplined to be provoked. So they create myths instead. You become an urban legend in their social circles, a story they tell to justify why they couldn't handle you, a narrative they build to mask their insecurity, and the more they talk, the more the myth grows. Until your reputation is no longer a story, it's a psychological force, a gravity, the kind that bends the behavior of everyone who enters your orbit, the kind that alters the way they speak, the way they stand, the way they breathe. You didn't force it, you didn't demand it, you didn't engineer it. Truth simply radiates. Precision simply penetrates. Awareness simply intimidates. And brilliance? Brilliance is loud even in silence. That's why your presence feels like a test. Not because you are testing them, but because they are testing themselves against you. They adjust their tone, they revise their sentences, they double-check their motives, they reevaluate their entire approach, not because you ask them to, but because your intelligence forces them to operate at their highest setting. That's why people keep you at a distance, not because you're unapproachable, but because they've never met a version of themselves they felt safe showing you. Your reputation doesn't repel people, it reveals them. It reveals who respects intelligence. It reveals who fears accountability. It reveals who thrives in truth. It reveals who hides in illusion. And the ones who fear you the most? They fear you because your awareness exposes the gap between who they pretend to be and who they actually are. You are the psychological X-ray they never consented to, the internal audit they never scheduled, the mirror they never wanted to look into, and yet here you are reflecting them back at themselves with surgical clarity. You've become a cipher, a ghost, a myth, a presence they can't escape even after you leave the room, because your impact lingers, your insight echoes, your silence haunts. That is the mark of true cognitive dominance, not noise, not aggression, not pressure. Presence. You have built a reputation that doesn't just follow you, it arrives before you, speaks for you, and protects you. A reputation forged through discipline, tempered by awareness, sharpened by self-mastery, and carried with unshakable composure. This is not an accident. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is architecture, this is strategy, this is evolution, this is the legacy of a mind that cannot be manipulated, cannot be copied, cannot be contained, cannot be decoded. A mind that stands beyond reach not because it hides, but because it ascended, and once intelligence ascends, it becomes untouchable. You have become untouchable, not by force, not by fear, but by understanding. And understanding, the deepest kind, the rarest kind, the kind you carry effortlessly, that is, the power legends are built from. You think this reputation was the destination, but you're mistaken. It was only the threshold, the doorway into a second realm of psychological gravity where the air thins, the world narrows, and every observer becomes an unwilling participant in your silent interrogation. Because once you become untouchable, something else happens, something no one warned you about. Your mind stops just reading people and starts rewriting them, not by intention, not by manipulation, but by calibration. Your presence forces others into alignment the way gravity forces planets into orbit. You don't bend people with pressure. You bend them by being a reference point too precise to ignore. In your silence, they correct their honesty. In your stillness, they recalibrate their confidence. In your awareness, they revise their motives. You don't need to call out someone's lie. Your existence makes the lie feel unsafe. You don't need to expose someone's agenda. Your clarity exposes them to themselves before you even open your mouth. That is the next level of psychological warfare. The war where you never fire a shot, yet the battlefield rearranges itself around you. Most people chase influence. You radiate it. Most people chase respect. You extract it without trying. Most people chase power. You embody it in a frequency that can't be imitated because it wasn't learned from books or mentors. It was carved from your own internal evolution. You've reached a place where people's fear of disappointing you outweighs their desire to deceive you, where their fear of being seen for what they are makes them behave at levels they never reached before. You don't just read people, you refine them. But here's the twist, that refinement doesn't feel like improvement to them, it feels like exposure. You've become the emotional audit they never scheduled yet, can't avoid. You've become the cognitive cleansing they didn't consent to but desperately needed. You've become the mirror they were never ready to face. Your intelligence is not loud, it's surgical. Your perception is not aggressive, it's atmospheric. Your boundaries are not walls, they're filters and only aligned intentions pass through. People call you cold because you don't entertain chaos. They call you mysterious because you don't overshare. They call you intimidating because you refuse to shrink into what makes others comfortable. But deep down, when their ego stops screaming and their insecurity stops trembling, they know the truth. You aren't cold, you're calibrated. You aren't mysterious, you're protected. You aren't intimidating, you're precise. And precision frightens those who live messy. Your mind operates in ways that most people can't even conceptualize. You don't react, you decode. You don't respond, you reframe. You don't panic, you analyze. You don't absorb energy, you trace its source. This is what builds the myth around you. Not rumors, not exaggerations, not theatrics. It's the simple, terrifying realization that nothing gets past you. You don't brag about this, you don't parade it, you don't weaponize it intentionally. You simply exist, and your existence becomes a psychological X-ray. And because people can feel that, they begin to reshape themselves before they face you. They rehearse their tone, they adjust their posture, they filter their emotions, they rewrite their sentences halfway through speaking. They don't do this for your approval, they do it for their own survival. Because being in your presence feels like stepping into a spotlight that doesn't burn, it reveals. People fear exposure more than they fear danger, and you're the quietest form of exposure they've ever encountered. You've noticed it. How people try to impress you with intelligence but reveal insecurity instead. How people try to challenge you but end up revealing their weak points before the challenge even begins. How people try to study you but end up exposed by what they didn't understand. Your silence has become a psychological weapon not by force but by effect. Silence unnerves the unprepared. Silence dismantles the manipulator. Silence interrogates the insecure. Silence exposes the liar. You don't use silence to hide, you use it to listen. And listening has made you lethal in ways language never could. You've studied human nature long enough to see patterns before they unfold. You spot fear in the tightening of a jaw. You spot deception in the rhythm of a sentence. You spot insecurity in the enthusiasm of a compliment. You spot resentment in the brightness of a smile. People call it intuition. You know it's data. Data you've collected silently, privately, relentlessly. That's why people watch you the way analysts watch encrypted signals, not because they understand, but because they're terrified of what they don't. You represent something too rare to categorize and too precise to imitate. A kind of intelligence that doesn't flex, doesn't boast, doesn't broadcast. Because mastery doesn't need marketing. Your intelligence is not entertainment, it is a threshold, crossed only by those who can handle clarity without crumbling. That's why only a handful can stand close to you without flinching. Only a few can speak to you without second-guessing themselves. Only the rare can look you in the eye and not blink into self-doubt. You've entered a tier where your very existence becomes a filter. People either elevate or evaporate. Because you don't allow chaos to linger, you don't tolerate low-frequency motives, you don't bend yourself for fragility, you don't dilute your awareness for anyone's comfort. You've earned this discipline. You've earned this aura. You've earned this reputation, and the world responds accordingly. They whisper your name with caution because it carries consequences, not threats. Clarity. Clarity is the consequence people fear most. It's not that you punish people, it's that their own intentions punish them in your presence. They fear the moment you notice the crack in their voice. They fear the second your eyes catch the inconsistency in their story. They fear the instant your expression stays still, which is when they know you're reading everything they tried to hide. You've become someone whose perception rearranges social dynamics. You don't demand respect, you command alignment. And those who can't align, they disappear on their own. Not because you push them away, but because they can't handle how loudly their own motives echo around you. You've become the kind of person who affects rooms without speaking, affects people without touching, affects outcomes without forcing, because your intelligence is felt before it is understood. You know how rare that is? People spend entire lives trying to look powerful. You became powerful by becoming aware. Awareness is the highest currency in the psychological economy. Awareness is the sharpest blade in emotional warfare. Awareness is the crown worn by those who became impossible to deceive. And you wear that crown without even realizing it. That's why the world treats you differently, not because you changed how you behave, but because you changed how they see themselves around you. That's what true psychological influence is. Not dominance, not manipulation, not force, it's reflection. You make people see themselves too clearly, and clarity is a painful light to stand under. People will call you intimidating because their insecurity needs a name. People will call you mysterious because their confusion needs a label. People will call you cold because their ego needs protection. People will call you calculating because their conscience feels exposed. But underneath every accusation is the truth they won't say aloud. You see too much. You've become a living audit, a walking assessment, a silent truth detector. And that is why you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand apart. Not because you're superior, but because you are clear, and clarity terrifies those who survived on illusion. You've built a reputation no one can erase, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. And who you are is someone the world tries to decode but never will. Because you're not simply intelligent, you're strategically intelligent, you're emotionally intelligent, you're socially intelligent, you're self-aware, you're unreactive, you're unmanipulable, you're unreadable, you're unreducible, you're untouchable. You built this mind layer by layer, pain by pain, lesson by lesson, boundary by boundary, observation by observation. And now you stand at the summit of psychological mastery, not because someone put you there, but because you climbed when everyone else slept. Your reputation is not what people say about you. Your reputation is what they won't say out loud. Your reputation is what they rethink when they're alone. Your reputation is the version of you they meet in their imagination, the version that dismantles their excuses and exposes their motives. That version is the truth. That version is the myth. That version is the legend. And that legend grows every day because every interaction plants another seed of awe, another seed of fear, another seed of admiration they'll never admit. The world thinks your power comes from intelligence. It doesn't. Your power comes from awareness, because awareness can't be controlled. It can't be manipulated. It can't be bribed. It can't be pressured, it can't be deceived. Awareness is the one thing that makes you unstoppable, not because you know everything, but because you see everything. And those who see everything become the ones the world can never fully understand, never fully contain, never fully predict. You've become the psychological empire you once needed, and empires don't fall, they evolve. And now you stand at the apex, the final layer of the reputation you never asked for but mastered anyway. At this height, something shifts. The world is no longer looking at you, it's looking up at you, quietly admitting a truth they'll never say aloud. You've become the standard they measure themselves against. They don't fear your actions, they fear your accuracy. They fear how easily you dissect intentions they spent months rehearsing. They fear the effortless calm that exposes their inner chaos. They fear the silence that forces them to face what they've been avoiding. They don't fear you because you're dangerous. They fear you because you're aware. Awareness is a mirror that never lies. Awareness is a judge that never speaks but always convicts. Awareness is the gravity that pulls truth out of people who spent their whole lives hiding from it. And that's the final level of your reputation, the part they never recover from, because once someone has stood in your presence, they can't forget the feeling. That chilling moment when they realized you weren't playing the same game as them. That quiet instant when they understood you saw the whole board while they were still learning the pieces. That sharp internal sting when they recognized you weren't trying to impress anyone, you were simply being yourself, and that alone was enough to unravel them. Your reputation is not made of rumors, not built on noise, not carved by exaggeration. It's built on truth, polished by discipline, powered by perception. You didn't fight for this status. You earned it by becoming the kind of mind that cannot be manipulated, fooled, copied, or contained, and that's why your legend will outlive conversation. Because minds like yours don't fade, they echo, they imprint, they become the silent benchmark others fear they'll never reach. You didn't just gain a reputation, you became one. Welcome back, warrior. Step into this moment, because you're about to hear the truth the world felt, but didn't have the courage to say out loud. Bro, that move you made, it wasn't normal. It wasn't human level. It wasn't something people could comprehend with their basic emotional hardware. What you did was straight up God-tier destruction. Not destruction of people, not destruction of anything physical, but destruction of the limits you used to bow to, destruction of the doubts that held you hostage, destruction of the old version of you that kept the world comfortable. You didn't show mercy to your own hesitation. You didn't show mercy to your fear. You didn't show mercy to the expectations that boxed you in. You vaporized them, quietly, effortlessly, and the shockwave is still rolling through the places that once underestimated you. No one saw it coming. Not because you hid it, but because you moved with a kind of internal precision that doesn't make noise. Real shifts never announce themselves, they just happen. And when they hit like a psychological earthquake. That's what last night was, a quake, a rupture, a crack in the fabric of the identity the world tried to lock you into. You didn't explode outward, you imploded inward, collapsing every lie you once believed about yourself. People felt the aftershock without even knowing the source. They woke up uneasy. They walked around with that strange, subtle pressure in their chest. They felt something in the atmosphere but couldn't place it. That was you. That was your move. A silent demolition of your old limits. A clean erasure of the boundaries that used to keep your power dimmed. You stepped into a clarity so sharp it sliced through the illusions around you without touching a single person. Zero harm, zero chaos. Just pure, internal evolution slicing through the noise. And here's the part no one talks about. The most dangerous kind of destruction is the symbolic kind, the emotional kind, the kind that breaks narratives instead of structures, the kind that dismantles expectations instead of environments. You broke the version of yourself people felt safe judging. You broke the image they tried to hang on your name. You shattered the assumptions they built like little cages around your identity. When you moved, you didn't ruin anything outside. You ruined the boxes they tried to put you in. That's why everyone's energy felt scrambled. That's why conversations paused, pulses skipped, thoughts short-circuited. They weren't reacting to your presence, they were reacting to the collapse of their false understanding of you. You didn't give them the courtesy of a transition. You didn't ease them into it. You didn't soften the blow. You just evolved. Straight up. Zero hesitation, zero dimming. Zero mercy on the illusions. People underestimate how loud internal evolution is. They think transformation happens quietly inside a walled person's chest, invisible to the outside world. They don't realize that when someone rises internally, the world around them has to adjust violently, suddenly, without warning. Not in a harmful way, in a structural way, in a narrative way. The energy blueprint of the room shifts. The emotional architecture of the people around you bends. The air recalibrates. Last night, you recalibrated the room without moving your hands, without raising your voice, without changing your expression. Your presence alone dismantled the old script. The script they thought you would follow forever. Because you weren't supposed to be this version of yourself. You weren't supposed to wake up like this. You weren't supposed to break free this cleanly. But you did. You made a move that wasn't instinct, it was intuition. It wasn't strategy, it was alignment. It wasn't rage, it was revelation. You didn't attack your past, you outgrew it so violently that it couldn't cling to you anymore. That's what God tier means. God tier isn't aggression, it's evolution happening at a level the world is not prepared to interpret. It's the kind of move that forces people to confront themselves. It's the kind of moment that flips the power dynamic without you even touching it. And zero mercy? That wasn't directed at people, it was directed at your own old excuses. You didn't negotiate with them. You didn't bargain with them. You didn't give them another chance. You ended them. You ended the parts of yourself that always tried to stay small. You ended the softness that came from fear instead of love. You ended the overthinking that paralyzed your potential. You ended the emotional hesitation that made you swallow your power. It was execution-level precision, but only toward your own limitations. That was the destruction. And destruction of limits always looks like destruction of reality to people who relied on the older, dimmer, watered-down version of you. When you made that move, you did something people don't expect. You chose yourself fully. That kind of choosing is violent to your old identity. It crushes the parts of you that were built from insecurity. It collapses the scaffolding people used to climb above you. It burns the false personas you created just to survive. It's symbolic fire, psychological fire, energy level fire. And it left no survivors, not in the external world, but in your inner world. You showed mercy to no outdated version of yourself. You dragged nothing old into the new chapter. You kept nothing that diluted you. People felt that shift like a cold wind through a warm room. Some felt threatened not by you, but by what your evolution said about their stagnation. Some felt inspired, because your rise illuminated a path they wished they had the courage to walk. Some felt confused because they had no emotional vocabulary to process a transformation that sudden, and some felt reverence not for you, but for the truth you stepped into. Because truth, when fully embraced, destroys everything that isn't aligned with it. Truth is the most merciless force in the world. Not violent, not aggressive, just absolute. And last night, you stepped into yours. You moved like someone who had finally set the record straight inside their own soul. You didn't hesitate. You didn't slip. You didn't break. You didn't wobble. You moved with a clarity so sharp it cut through the lies that used to cloud your vision. People didn't see that moment, they felt it. They felt the emotional detonation. They felt the psychological reset. They felt the shift in the air, even if they couldn't explain it. Because you didn't rise quietly, you rose completely. Even your silence feels heavier now. Even your stillness feels intentional. Even your breathing carries a different message. You're done being soft with your potential. You're done negotiating who you are. You're done letting the world decide your speed. Last night marked the beginning of the end of the old version of you, and the beginning of you fully, unapologetically, undeniably you. The destruction wasn't chaos, it was purification. The zero mercy wasn't aimed at others, it was aimed at everything that held you back. The God-tier part wasn't dominance, it was transcendence. You rose into yourself. And when people saw that rise, or even felt it in the atmosphere, they realized something they never realized before. You're not someone who's trying to become powerful. You're someone who finally stopped pretending you weren't powerful. This is why the world is reacting the way it is. This is why the air feels charged around you. This is why your presence feels upgraded even to people who can't name the reason. A line was crossed last night. A line inside you. A line in your energy. A line the world felt, even if it didn't see it. And there's no going back now. But here's what you don't fully realize yet. That move you made didn't just transform you. It forced the entire environment around you to recalibrate. People who used to look at you through blurry lenses suddenly saw you in high definition. People who once read you like an open book suddenly found all the pages rewritten. And the ones who thought they knew your patterns, they were left staring at a version of you that didn't match any memory they had stored. That's what real evolution does. It shocks the ecosystem. It shakes the emotional foundation of anyone who underestimated you. It forces people to confront the truth they ignored. That move wasn't loud, it was decisive. It wasn't chaotic, it was crafted. It wasn't reckless, it was refined. It came from a place inside you that's been building quietly for years, a place you didn't access before because you didn't think you had the right to. A place that held your power hostage until the moment you finally remembered who you are. And when you stepped into that place, your energy changed so suddenly that the world had no choice but to react. People are still trying to figure out how you did it, how you went from silent to sovereign, from overlooked to undeniable, from dimmed to divine. They keep replaying the moment in their minds, trying to dissect every angle of your expression, every shift in your posture, every microsecond where your energy rose like the tide. They're asking questions they'll never answer because what you did wasn't physical, it was internal. They're trying to analyze a spiritual reroute using human tools. They're trying to decode an evolution that wasn't meant to be decoded. They're trying to measure a frequency that can't be captured with logic. Because that move, it didn't come from thought. It came from truth. A truth that had been sitting in your chest for too long, waiting for you to stop running from yourself. A truth that was always there, even when you couldn't see it. A truth that only revealed itself when you finally stopped living small. The moment you aligned with that truth, everything around you shattered symbolically, emotionally, energetically. That's the destruction people felt. You didn't break the world. You broke the illusion of who you were. And the illusion wasn't built by you. It was built by the people who couldn't handle your full capacity. When that illusion fell, it fell hard. People felt the emotional collapse. People felt the energy shift. People felt the truth slicing through the room like cold air. You didn't harm anyone, you just stopped protecting the lies that kept everyone comfortable. That's the kind of destruction that rewrites reality. People who once saw you as predictable suddenly realized you're not someone who evolves gradually. You evolve in leaps, jumps, internal detonations that shift the landscape. And every time you evolve, you leave behind a version of yourself that no one saw coming. That's why they're still stunned. Not because you rose, people rise all the time, but because you rose in a way that didn't match any logical blueprint. Growth is supposed to be messy, loud, emotional. But you grew with surgical precision. You cut away the old without hesitation. You stepped into the new without apology. That's why people don't know how to talk to you anymore. That's why their voice changes around you. That's why their energy folds, sharpens, tightens. They're adjusting to your new frequency in real time, and they're failing. Not because your energy is heavy, but because it's finally light enough to expose theirs. Your presence now acts like a mirror with no distortion, a mirror with no cracks, a mirror that reflects people back to themselves in ways they aren't used to. Some people see their potential in that reflection, and they adore you for it. Others see their insecurity, and they fear you for it. And a few see their own limitations, and they resent you for it. But none of them can look away, because the version of you standing in front of them now is not the version they prepared for. Your eyes don't wander anymore. Your breath doesn't shake. Your posture doesn't fold. Your energy doesn't leak. You move like someone who finally stopped apologizing for existing, and that alone is enough to shatter entire narratives. What you did wasn't God tier because it was extreme, it was God tier because it was clean, pure, rooted, aligned, uninterrupted. It came from that quiet place inside you where fear used to live, the place you reclaimed, the place you rebuilt, the place you finally fortified with truth. And now, you're operating from that place full time. That's why people don't recognize you. They're seeing the real you for the first time ever. You didn't evolve, you emerged. And here's something you need to understand about emergence. When someone steps out of their old shadow, it looks like destruction to everyone who only knew the shadow version. They think something drastic happened. They think something snapped. They think you changed overnight. But you didn't change overnight, you changed every night. Every time you doubted yourself but kept breathing. Every time you were underestimated but stayed silent instead of collapsing. Every time you carried pain without letting it reshape your kindness. Every time you chose growth when staying the same would have been easier. This version of you isn't new, it's just finally visible. And that visibility, it comes with power. Not the kind that intimidates, the kind that clarifies. Because the real you doesn't create chaos. The real you removes chaos. The real you cuts through noise. The real you simplifies the entire room. You are no longer a person people analyze, you're a presence people feel. A presence shaped by internal destruction of everything false. A presence shaped by zero mercy on your own excuses. A presence shaped by clarity that doesn't need an introduction. People talk about glow-ups, but you didn't glow, you ignited. And ignition scares people who live in emotional darkness. Your rise made them squint. Your presence made them recalibrate. Your silence made them listen. Your truth made them shift. Not because you forced them, but because energy doesn't lie. Your energy is doing what your words never could. And that's why the world feels different around you now. You're not the same. You're not meant to be. You didn't level up, you leveled through. You walked through your doubts, through your old fears, through your hesitation, through your own emotional rubble. And the other side of that walk, that's the version of you standing here now, a version that didn't break anything except the limits that were breaking you. You think people are reacting to what you did, but they're reacting to who you've become. That's the real move. That's the real destruction. That's the real zero mercy. And they felt every second of it. And now you're standing in the aftermath of your own evolution, looking around at a world that hasn't caught up yet, a world that's still trying to process the shift you walked through like it was nothing. People keep asking themselves, how did they do that? When did this happen? Where did this version come from? But the truth is simple. You didn't rise in front of them. You rose within yourself. And inner rises always feel like outer destruction to those who never saw the battle. Your move didn't destroy people, it destroyed the version of reality they built around you. Every assumption, every outdated memory, every old story that tried to confine you, all of it collapsed the moment you stepped into your real energy. That collapse is what they're reacting to. That collapse is what shook the room. That collapse is what made the air feel charged, like something sacred had cracked through. People saw you once as someone who needed permission to shine, but now you walk like someone who gives your own permission, and that shift alone is enough to break the emotional comfort zones of anyone who wasn't prepared. Because you're not moving timidly anymore. You're not second-guessing the space you take up. You're not dimming your presence to make others feel safe. You walk with the kind of internal power that doesn't announce itself, it radiates. Silent, clean, unapologetic. That's the real God-tier energy. And the craziest part? You didn't acquire it, you uncovered it. It was yours the whole time. Buried under layers of doubt, expectations, and noise. All you did was reclaim what was always meant to be yours. People call it destruction because they don't have another word for the collapse of their misjudgments. They watch their own false narratives fall apart in real time, and the only language the human mind has for that kind of shock is intensity. But what you did wasn't intense, it was inevitable. Evolution is always inevitable for someone who refuses to stay small. Look at the way people behave around you now. They speak more carefully, they watch you more closely. They listen with a kind of unspoken respect, not because you demanded it, but because your presence pulled it out of them. They feel the final version of you forming, piece by piece, and it makes them adjust their tone without even realizing why. Your calmness feels heavier now, like it carries the weight of every truth you never said. Your silence feels sharper, like it cuts through conversations without needing a word. Your eyes feel clearer, like they've finally seen what you were meant to become all along. People can sense when someone stops negotiating with their potential. It creates a frequency shift, a subtle, powerful redirection in the field around you. Your energy used to bend to others. Now it stands straight. It doesn't push. It doesn't pull. It just exists, fully, confidently, undeniably. And that existence is what feels like destruction to lower versions of reality. You didn't show zero mercy to people. You showed zero mercy to the part of you that used to fold under pressure. That's why you're different. That's why the atmosphere reacts when you walk into a room. You're not carrying unfinished versions of yourself anymore. You're whole, you're aligned, you're consolidated. And consolidation feels like confrontation to anyone who expected you to stay scattered. But here's the part that will stay with you long after this moment passes. You didn't break anything that mattered. You only broke what was restricting you. You didn't destroy your story, you upgraded it. You didn't burn your bridges, you burned your limits. Everything that fell apart needed to fall. Everything that shook needed to shake. Everything that ended was already expired. Your move wasn't destruction, it was purification, a clean removal of the debris that was blocking your rise. And now the world sees the real shape of you, sharp, focused, unfiltered. A version that isn't performing, a version that isn't asking, a version that isn't pretending. This is you, the unedited edition, and that move you made, it didn't just change your life. It changed the atmosphere around your name. People don't whisper about you anymore. They watch, they adjust, they adapt. Because once someone witnesses a rise like yours, they know better than to underestimate the next one. You didn't show mercy to your limits, and now your potential is finally showing you the same loyalty. This is only the beginning.